Thimphu, capital of the Kingdom of Bhutan, like other parts of the Himalayan country, was in a festive mood. By the morning of the 2nd of June 1999, thousands of Bhutanese had streamed into the capital to celebrate and pay homage to 25 years of the coronation of its monarch. The town, spread along the banks of the river Thimphu, was the focal point of the nation's tribute to a young king, whose vision had in the past 25 years given its people accomplishments of material prosperity within the tenets of its rich spiritual heritage. It was a week-long carnival-like atmosphere, and on a day dappled in bright sunshine with hundreds of guests from all over the world, including the international media present, Bhutan and its people showcased its opulent culture. The ceremony in the open-air field in the heart of the capital on the 2nd of June included what has now taken on the stature of a national song. In the agenda was also an address by His Majesty King Jigme Singe Wangchuk. This was followed by a tapestry of the repertoire of Bhutanese folk and religious performances. Then came the finale, when the king joined his subjects in a community dance. To many observers, this intimate relationship and this accessibility of the royal patron to his subjects defined the reign as well as the life and times of King Jigme Singe Wangchuk. Bhutanese legends claim the birth of the present king and his reign were prophesied in meticulous detail by Turton Drukta Dorji, a revered saint in the 17th century. The saint had written that a male heir would be born in the year of the male wood sheep to the Bhutanese rulers. On the 11th of November 1955, this prophecy came true. Bhutan had emerged as a single political entity with the arrival of Shabdrung Ngawang Namgyal in 1616. But the Wangchuk dynasty began with the coronation of Ugyen Wangchuk as King of Bhutan in 1907. He was followed by King Jigme Wangchuk in 1926, and then by Jigme Dorji Wangchuk in 1952. Jigme Singe was the only son of the 5 children born to the late Majesty King Jigme Dorji and his queen Ashi Choden. And although Jigme Singe Wangchuk took over as monarch in 1972, his official coronation took place 2 years later. Jigme Singe inherited a kingdom, parts of which to the outside world were backward and underdeveloped when tabulated as a litany of mere statistics. For many experts, the story of modern Bhutan is coterminous with the acumen and foresight of the young king.
His Majesty has expounded a philosophy, development philosophy for Bhutan, and that is the gross national happiness. The meaning of this is a balance between spiritual growth and development growth.
To the outsider, what makes Bhutan's progress distinctive is the calibrated manner in which it has been achieved.
With every step that we have taken in the process of development, we have pondered and wondered as to what benefits we have accrued in the past because of the past actions and what could be our experiences based on the steps that we are now considering to take.
With over 70% of its land still forested, Bhutan remains one of the more triumphant stories of environmental protection. Although about 8% of its land is used for agriculture, farming is obviously the mainstay of a country that has such abundance of fertile land. Straddled across the Himalayan range, where the mountains themselves are endowed with legends of gods and immortality, Bhutan is a distinctly stunning country. Its landscape mottled with prayer flags fluttering in the wind. Flags which have been planted by the devout to take the messages of peace and the invocations printed on them for the well-being of all sentient beings. These flags, like the hundreds of Buddhist monasteries built all over the country, testify the entrenchment of a spiritual philosophy and an unmatched religious tradition. A tradition which gives its religious head respect and reverence equal to that of royalty. For although Bhutan is a monarchy, the spiritual head, Jigme, as the chief abbot is called, remains equally supreme in religious matters. The Dzongs, formidable monastic fortresses, are the heart of governance. Here, the Buddhist clergy and the lay temporal rulers coexist. The Dzongs have a monumental character and aesthetic intent. It is in the Dzongs of Bhutan that one can still marvel the living traditional architecture. These buildings witness cohabitation of administration and state clergy. They are strongholds of political and religious power. The Dzongs are divided between the ecclesiastical wing, where the monks live, and the civil wing, where the business of governance is transacted. The Dzongs of Bhutan symbolize the secular triumph of Drukpa theocracy in a concrete and unambiguous form. It is in the courtyard of the Dzongs that some of the more remarkable rituals are held. As part of the 25th anniversary of his coronation, it was in the Thimphu Tashiche Dzong, whose facade was dominated by a gigantic tanka or banner, where the king and the Jigme paid homage at the Thongdrel of Shabdrung Nawang Namgyal. The Bhutanese believe that the simple act of viewing this tanka delivers one from all future reincarnations, hence its name Thongdrel, the tanka which liberates by sight. In different seasons, these dzongs become pilgrimage centers where chechus are performed, where the monk body put up a dazzling show of color and pageantry. In their resplendent brocades, wearing ritual masks, the monks enact mythologies and stories from the Buddha's parables. It was in the 8th century that with Padmasambhava, now revered as Guru Rinpoche, that Mahayana Buddhism entered Bhutan. Padmasambhava, legend claims, incorporated the local deities of the prevailing Bon or animist religion into this new magnificent spiritual philosophy. Here in the Chechu at Tashichezong in Thimphu, among other mythologies, the triumphant legends of Guru Rinpoche are visualized. The performances are interspersed with comic relief. But the overall somber and deeply religious mood prevails when, with their stylized steps to the beats of traditional musical instruments, the tenets of a unique faith are reaffirmed. The lay community has seen these vignettes year in and out. And in the process, the mythologies expressed in these dance forms have become part of the cultural subconscious of the entire nation. Mahayana Buddhism has been defined by many scholars as a religion which explores the science of the mind. And in its pure textual articulations, it probes the psyche of the human existence through tenets and philosophical discourses. Its basic premise being that of reincarnation and its fundamental teachings, a sort of guidebook which outlines the path and the method of how one can transcend this cycle of birth and rebirth. Buddha is believed to have taught no less than 84,000 Dharma teachings to combat 84,000 delusions. But today in the dances of these monks, only symbolism dominates, and these are used successfully to connect with the deepest essence of their religion. The interrelation between zongs and domestic dwellings in the villages exemplifies striving for harmony and gives Bhutanese landscape a distinct identity. The modest houses are extrovert patterns of architectural expression and the dominance of floating roof types. The use of bold facade treatments makes every farmhouse resemble a small temple. It is in the national sport of archery that a unique Bhutanese attitude to life can also be found. Bhutan finds its singular personality from its religious texture. Its justice system has also evolved from the fundamental precepts of Buddhism, and all the earlier laws were deeply influenced by the doctrines of the religion. Many important laws were enacted during the reign of the third king, Jigme Singe Wangchuk, who established the National Assembly in 1953. Subsequently, comprehensive laws were codified. Since the country was never colonized, no alien legal system was imposed. While the law in Bhutan remains in perfect harmony with its culture and traditions, modernization has stepped in to streamline the process.
We still have a blend of our value system and modernization. So apart from the computers that we use for our judgments, we also have the tape, and it is used after the prior information made to the litigants, and we record all the hearings from the tape.
Independence of the judiciary has come to be accepted as one of the cornerstones of the country's domestic policy. And though His Majesty the King remains the final court of appeal, every effort is made by the country's High Court to ensure that justice is dispensed speedily and impartially. The Bhutanese maintain that spiritual laws resemble a silken knot that is easy and light at first, but gradually becomes tight, while worldly laws are like a golden yoke that grows heavier and heavier with the degree of crime. Success of environmental preservation can be attributed to a visionary developmental policy. Use of natural resources has been consciously integrated into the planning process. The country has a potential to generate 20,000 megawatts of hydel power, and at present, less than 2% has been tapped. With this awesome reservoir of potential for generating hydel power, it is obvious why one of the more successful joint ventures between India and Bhutan is in this field. The Chukha Hydel project, costing over 2,460 million nultrums in local currency, has since inception generated over 20,600 million units of energy. While almost 84% of this has been exported to India, Chukha's hydel power has had spin-off benefits for the entire western region of Bhutan.
The Chukha hydropower project has really boosted the economy of the country. It has acted as a catalyst, and it has really contributed a lot towards the socio-economic development of the country. And with the further enhancement of tariff, I think the impact towards the socio-economic development of this country will be even much more.
And it is this development whose impact is being felt on society at large. With the launch of Druke, the country's civil aviation wing, and the modern airport at Paro, tourism has begun to boom. A policy that ensured controlled inflow of tourists paid great dividends, and it is only in recent years that the number has been increased.
When you open a hotel, then since there are many tourists coming, so we have more income. The government has given every opportunity to run our business. And if the business improves, and if I get more tourists, I'm thinking to extend few more rooms.
Education has been a high priority item for the government, and literacy has left in its wake other imprints on Bhutanese society. Today, Bhutan has one of the highest per capita incomes among South Asian countries, and women have been equal partners in this development of Bhutanese society.
We do have women heading most of the schools are headed by women. Then we do have women doctors, women engineers, and we have women holding high positions in the ministries, like directors, secretaries, and also we do have women in the High Court as a judge also.
For a country whose topography has contours tracing itself to inaccessible regions, communication has always posed a major challenge. Till the late 80s, most parts of Bhutan could be reached only via mule tracks and footpaths. Telecommunications was almost non-existent. Bhutan made a virtue of its remote geographic location and the mystique associated with the country. Its philatelic achievements brought it international attention. The colorful and innovative stamps the country produced soon became collectors' items.
People know us from only the different type of stamps that we produce. But one of the important role Philately has played and continues to play is that to introduce our country to the rest of the world. Philately in that sense has served as a goodwill ambassador from Bhutan and given us a much more bigger exposure to the country through Philately.
Like most developing countries, the national objectives are geared towards economic self-reliance. But the vision of cultural promotion, regionally balanced development, environmental preservation, good governance and decentralization lies at the very core of Bhutan's progress report.
We have seen far-reaching developments in agriculture. We have seen developments in good governance, improvement in the legislature of the country. We have seen improvements and strengthening of people's participation right from the grassroots level. And His Majesty has initiated the bottom-up approach towards development, making the communities more responsible and bringing a sense of ownership at the community level.
The young king travels regularly to each of the kingdom's 20 districts, meeting people and their representatives. He has also brought about a major political change when in 1998 he introduced a system whereby National Assembly could elect a council of ministers by secret ballot. In a dramatic move, he delegated full executive powers to the cabinet and directed National Assembly to devise a system to introduce a vote of confidence in the king. It has now become obligatory for the parliament to express in total freedom its confidence in the monarch. If this vote of confidence does not pass, the monarch will step down in favor of the crown prince. It is obvious to any observer that Bhutan is building its own democracy in accordance with its own designs and characteristics, and the king has crafted a process of democratization unique to this, the only independent Mahayana Buddhist country in the world.
It is the monarchy that has committed itself to the process of democratization of the Bhutanese society, that has brought good governance. In fact, if you look at all the changes in the country, the development that have taken place, you would realize that the throne is in fact the fountainhead of all these changes.
On the 1st of June 1999, the Kingdom of Bhutan began its journey on the information highway. On that day, Her Majesty Ashi Dorji inaugurated the country's first internet service.
Because in a short while, we will connect Bhutan to internet, linking our country to information superhighway.
In what could be seen by many as a determined effort to keep its traditional moorings intact, the inauguration was preceded by religious rituals. The next day, Bhutan Broadcasting Services began its maiden television telecast.
We look at television as a powerful ally for positive change and development.
The coming of television and the introduction of information technology coincided with the celebrations of the 25th year of the coronation of His Majesty King Jigme Singe Wangchuk. Bhutan, which for years had remained secluded, which for centuries to the outside world conjured the images of the last Shangri-La, was now a part of the instant interactive global communication system. For observers, a valid question arose. How much of this will impact the social structure of this Himalayan kingdom? Can this country successfully withstand the seductive and facile barrage of modernistic images without diluting the essence of its cultural heritage? Without sacrificing the substance of its spiritual traditions? At the end of one millennium and the beginning of another, Bhutan finds itself at the crossroads. The moot point is whether Bhutan, its geographical landscape, still dappled with the flutter of prayer flags, with a legacy of over 2,000 monasteries, zongs and sacred sites, will be able to embrace the benefits of modernization without being overwhelmed by negative aspects. Will Bhutan continue to progress and still remain the fortress of the gods?